You've been meaning to start for weeks. The task is right there, it's not even that hard, and still, you don't move. So you tell yourself the familiar story, I'm just lazy, I have no discipline, something is wrong with me. But what if that story is wrong? What if you're not avoiding the task, but avoiding what the task would make you face about yourself? Because here's what chronic avoidance actually looks like from the inside. It's not lying on a couch eating chips without a care. It's lying on a couch while your mind quietly punishes you for it. Opening your laptop, then closing it, starting a sentence, then deleting it, telling yourself you'll begin after this one thing, then after the next thing, then tomorrow. And the worst part isn't the lost time. It's that low, persistent hum of dread underneath that you can't quite locate, something about that specific task that makes you turn away before you even get close. This pattern starts shaping how you see yourself. You begin to identify as someone who doesn't follow through, someone who talks but doesn't act. And that identity, once it settles, starts making decisions for you. Psychologists call this self-handicapping, where people create conditions for failure before they even begin, because the cost of failing after real effort feels unbearable. But the deeper question isn't why can't I start, it's what would happen if I finished. Because you are not lazy. What we call laziness is almost always the brain doing exactly what it was designed to do, protect you from something that feels dangerous. The human brain is not optimized for productivity, it's optimized for survival. And somewhere along the way, your nervous system learned to associate that task with a threat. Not a lion, not physical danger, but the threat of exposure, the threat of trying and being seen trying, of finishing and it not being enough, of succeeding and then being expected to keep succeeding. Because as long as you never truly try, you never truly know. And not knowing keeps a certain hope alive. When you sit down to work on something that carries real meaning, your amygdala reads the emotional stakes and fires, not because the task is dangerous, but because you care. And caring means you can be hurt. Think of it like a smoke detector that's too sensitive. A little steam from the shower and the alarm goes off, even though there's no fire. Your brain detects the smoke of potential failure and pulls you away before you get burned. So the avoidance isn't the problem, it's the solution your brain invented. And the task is the door, while what you're avoiding is what's behind it. So how do you actually work with this? First, name the emotional threat, not the task. When you notice yourself avoiding something, ask, what am I afraid this task will confirm about me? Write it down, because named fear loses its power while vague dread holds all of it. Second, shrink the exposure, not the goal. Not write the chapter, but write one paragraph no one will ever read. Not have the conversation, but write down what you want to say just for yourself. Because each small completion sends a signal, we did this, we're still here, it was okay. Third, separate effort from outcome in your identity. Practice this consciously. What I produce is separate from what I am. Because when self-worth isn't tied to the outcome, the task stops being a verdict and becomes information. Fourth, follow the resistance, not the schedule. Notice if it's always this kind of task, only when certain people might see it, only when you're close to finishing. Because patterns in avoidance are maps that show you exactly where the emotional wound is. Fifth, let the discomfort be present without obeying it. When you feel the pull to close the tab or check your phone, pause for 10 seconds. Don't fight it, don't judge it, just observe it and say, there it is, that feeling, I know what this is. Because that moment of observation breaks the automatic loop between emotional signal and avoidance behavior. Avoidance is not a character flaw, it's a signal with a source. And every time you feel yourself pulling away from something that matters, that's not laziness speaking. That's a part of you trying to protect something it thinks is fragile. And your job isn't to override that part, but to get curious about what it's protecting and gently show it that the door is safer than it believes. You were never lazy. You were just protecting yourself the only way you knew how. And that protection made sense once, but at some point the protection became the cage, and you are not obligated to stay in it. The task will still be hard, the fear won't vanish completely, but now you know what it actually is. And knowing the difference between a locked door and one you've just been afraid to open, that changes everything.